All right, well, it is 8:30. We'll call the November 17th meeting to order. Everybody, I should note that Commissioner Phobie's filling in for Felix today, and Miss Danielowski is filling in for Tim. Did I get that right?
Yeah, we can do either way.
Yeah, do you want to do introductions? We got a few new people.
Sure, why don't we just go around the room and...
Mark Schneider, the senior county planner.
Molly Hanson with Y.
Dan Weber, Sherburne County.
Andy Weller at the American Heritage Bank.
Jessica Bartle, Sherburne County.
Chrissy Kent, Sherburne County.
Lisa Phobie, Sherburne County.
Van Danielowski, Sherburne County Commissioner.
Rose Stark Crocker, Central Minnesota Community Foundation.
Ken Giroux. Who do we have back there?
Renee Regal, City of Becker.
Teresa Hafner, City of Big Lake.
Well, you were all sent out, actually, 2 sets of minutes. We'll look for a motion to approve the first one from August 18th first.
So moved.
And a second.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? I thought we had another one to approve.
That's the insurance coverage. That's coming up.
Okay. You want to move to that then?
Sure. Go ahead, Jessica.
Okay, so when we were reviewing the bylaws,
Just the point of, did we approve the agenda?
Catches me all the time.
I'll move approval of the agenda.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Getting too excited for what's coming up. You see insurance and you just want to get there like now. All right, Jessica?
Yep, so when we were reviewing the bylaws, section 4 of the bylaws states that the EDA should be covered under a liability insurance policy for the organization and its members. So we consulted with our risk management and she reached out to MCIT to get a policy, and I do have a summary of that policy coverage if we want to pass it around the table.
People are anxious to read it.
Oh yes, it's super exciting. I'm not gonna go through it, but there are a couple things that we had to get done as far as the application process is concerned. So there is, the County Board of Commissioners approved the general liability coverage and then the workers' comp coverage in a resolution, which the application needed to include that. The EDA will be entering into a JPA with MCIT as far as that, for that policy. So we're gonna have, or Ken, if the EDA approves the policy, will sign the signature page of that JPA. And then also they require a letterhead, EDA letterhead, and a motion made by the EDA to accept the MCIT coverage and pricing as indicated in the coverage summary and cost, which you guys have. And then the last thing that they require is a resolution that the EDA elects workers' comp coverage for the Sherburne County EDA, which the county commissioners have already approved that. So that's where we're at with
So
that.
essentially, when we were going through the bylaws for today, we realized we haven't had insurance for the last 14 years. So this is kind of a housekeeping item that we need to take care of to get us covered.
All right. Any questions regarding the insurance coverage?
And does this also, just for clarification, does this extend to the board members' coverage as well for protection?
Correct. As long as it's doing business for this group.
Right. And doing it honestly.
Yes, hopefully.
All right.
Where did that come
Oh,
from?
it just came from where it says here, employee dishonesty and faithful performance of duty.
All right, no, that makes sense now.
In the big bold print.
All right, I'd be looking for a motion to approve accepting the insurance policy as presented. That's where you guys jump, come on.
I'll make that motion. You guys can make motions.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you guys, just because of our subbing.
I'll
today.
second it.
All right, we have a motion, a second, all in favor,
Aye.
and opposed. All right, well,
You guys
here,
are done, we're all done, you guys are next for motions.
I think we're done with motion.
yeah, I think we're out.
Oh,
Thanks
sure.
for carrying us, Rand.
Okay.
All right, well, we do get into some work here after. I think I'm just gonna turn it over to Dan and Jessica, who have really been pouring through some stuff here this last month, and I know they got some slides and whatnot, so.
Yeah, we have a very full agenda today, so
Why
we're
don't you
gonna,
guys just roll until you need me, and then,
we'll do our best.
all right.
We have a very full agenda. If you look through your packet, we have several presentations. The first, as we get into our strategic planning in 2023, we want to go over the old plan and talk about some of the successes and challenges, so I'll go through that briefly. We also want to have a chance to summarize the history of the group, so we're going to go over the enabling resolutions and the bylaws. I know that sounds exciting, but we are hoping for some discussion as we go through that. And then we have Mark from Planning and Zoning to talk about the 10-year comprehensive plan. So he's going to finish the meeting and talk about that process real briefly, and then we'll spend a lot of the December meeting on the comp plan. So first, I handed out the strategic plan. This was in your packet, but I didn't want to go through it line by line, so I summarized it. Did I get everybody a copy of this that walked in? So I'm just going to highlight a few things that we have had success in since 2018. Broadband is one of the main functions. We went from 49th in the state to about 13th. So we've really made a lot of improvements over the last 5 years. We've also really updated our county website. I encourage each of you to go on there and check it out. It is much different than what it looked like 5 years ago.
When you say, back to the broadband, when
Yeah.
we go from 49th to 13th, is that like coverage, customer?
Percentage of access to 120 coverage, so 100 up, 20 down. We were 49th a couple years ago, and now we're up to 13th, so we've made a lot of strides. Good question. We've also received nearly $25 million in bonding for the regional transportation infrastructure projects, mostly in Becker. So that's been a huge win for the county. We also contracted with the Rural Ideas Network. For those of you that don't know, it's on our website. It's an entrepreneur lab for new businesses and businesses that want to expand. And we've had over 100 hits on that, or 100 different sessions on that website, so it's been really successful. And then one of our main programs is our revolving loan fund. We've given out over $660,000 in loans, which equated to $13 million in projects. So that's been a huge success over the last couple of years. Some of the things we need to work on, prior to COVID, we used to have community meetings every quarter. And we're gonna try to get into that at least biannually, where we have meetings, we'd invite the EDA, we'd invite a lot of our community partners, and then elected officials as well. We used to have about 40 to 50 people attend those meetings, so we're gonna try to get those up and running again.
Welcome to come to Princeton.
Well, sunken ship might be on our list.
Yeah, I think it would be a great.
That's also one of our revolving loan funds, so that'd be a perfect fit.
Exactly, so it's a great example of.
Another thing I really want to focus on is communication with the county board, EDA, and community to celebrate some of our successes. As I just mentioned, we've had a lot of things that have been accomplished, but we really don't share that with the public, so that's one thing we want to focus on. And we also want to get our city and township officials much more involved than they've been. I think we have a good relationship, but especially the townships we want to be more active with. And Mark's going to talk about that a little bit. And Jessica's going to implement a business and retention and expansion program where we'll be doing a lot of visits. That's done in the cities right now, but like I said, we really want to expand that to townships so that we're more active in what they're doing. So that's just a quick highlight of where we've been to try to lead into where we're going to go. And I'm going to turn it over to Jessica to start with the enabling resolutions.
I just want to make one point on the visits for retention and business expansion. I know we want to focus on townships as well, but I don't want to leave out the cities because the county's participation is important as well. I don't think we can just
Absolutely.
rely on. So I just want to make sure that was
Jessica just went to a seminar with each of the cities.
Yeah, in fact, Renee came with, and then unfortunately Therese had she was in day 3 or something like that, so she wasn't able to go. But Renee came with, and then Stacy from Princeton came with, their new community development, and then Steph Janish from Clear Lake came, and then Josh Mullen from Elk River was also supposed to come, but unfortunately he was sick. So we are really working on a partnership across the county. Yeah. Now for the fun stuff. Alright, so some of this might get into the weeds a little bit, but it's hard to summarize a legal document. You don't want to leave anything else. So we're going to start with the enabling resolution.
person on WebEx can still hear.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. So the first section is how the EDA was formed. The Minnesota State statute authorizes the county to form an EDA if the county receives a recommendation to do so from a committee formed pursuant to the statute to recommend options for a county EDA service provider. So then the county passed a resolution on April 11th, 2006, which created the committee pursuant to the statute to explore and recommend options for an entity that's appropriate to serve as the county economic development service provider. And then as a result, the Sherburne County Structure Task Force was formed. After several meetings, this task force presented its findings, made a recommendation to the Sherburne County EDA, or Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, in a written report that the Economic Development Authority is the most effective and efficient structure to provide economic development for the county. And then on September 12, 2006, the County Board of Commissioners accepted the task force report and adopted their recommendation, and a public hearing was held, and they directed county staff to develop the bylaws and the enabling resolution for the Sherburne County EDA. So what is the enabling resolution? The enabling resolution is the document that was created when the Sherburne County Board enabled the creation of the Economic Development Authority in Sherburne County. Oop, I went the wrong direction. There we go. So what does this enabling resolution allow? It makes the Sherburne County EDA is officially established and created. It defines the EDA as a public body, corporate and politic, and a political subdivision of the state of Minnesota. And then it grants the EDA the powers, duties, and responsibilities as set forth in the statute, or as may be amended from time to time, except as limited by the enabling resolution. What does this mean? So within the enabling resolution, there are certain powers that are included without limitation. And those are all the use of all the powers granted to it from any source to carry out its purposes, to create and define the boundaries of an economic development district, to enter into joint powers agreements, to acquire by purchase, lease, gift, devise, and several other means, real property. Property so acquired will be owned, leased, controlled, and used or occupied by the authority for public governmental purposes and is exempt from taxation by Minnesota state laws or its political subdivisions. The EDA can accept land, money, or other assistance in any form from the federal government, the state government, or any political subdivision of the state. And they sign options to purchase, sell, or lease property, and sell or otherwise dispose of property. So the EDA is enabled to do all those things.
So remember these slides when we talk later about our future vision. These are all the things the EDA is capable of doing.
Yes. The EDA can make contracts for the purpose of economic development, become a limited partner in a partnership, or become a member of any organization whose purpose is consistent with and will further the economic development goals of the authority. They can purchase supplies and materials, contracts to retain specialized professional services to perform duties and exercise its powers in areas including, but not limited to, economic development, engineering, architect, real estate, marketing, and law. The EDA can conduct research, assemble, and disseminate demographic data and information pertaining to real estate and economic information, commercial and industrial activities within the county. They can undertake outreach and marketing activities in an effort to encourage attraction of commercial and industrial development, and they can adopt and administer economic development loan programs, such as your revolving loan fund. There are limitations, and the following lists the limitations of the EDA. They are limited by the bylaws of the EDA, and the bylaws must be approved by the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. The EDA is obligated to submit a budget to the Sherburne County Board annually and at the time specified by the county administrator, and will follow the budget process of all county departments. The EDA budget will include a detailed written estimate of any amount of monies the EDA expects to require from the county to conduct authority business. And the fiscal year of the EDA will be the same as the fiscal year of the county.
The EDA's annual operating budget and plan must be approved by the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. The EDA does not have the authority to levy. They may not issue bonds without the approval of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. The action of the EDA must be consistent with the Sherburne County Comprehensive Plan and the comprehensive plan of a city or township in which EDA development project is taking place. And all development plans must be approved by the Sherburne County Board prior to implementation. And development projects undertaken by the EDA or which they participate in must also be approved by a majority vote of the governing board of the city or township in which the project is located. EDA board appointments and terms of office. The EDA governing body will be a board consisting of 9 members. 2 of those members will be members of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners.
And that's the list I handed out earlier today, so you know what everybody's terms are.
The makeup of the board, all EDA board members will either be residents of Sherburne County, own or manage a commercial or industrial enterprise, at least partially located within the county, be an employee of a township or incorporated municipality located within the county. And at least 1 EDA member shall be appointed from each commission or district. And all EDA board members will serve staggered terms, and they're 6-year terms right now. Vacancies and ex officio members. So any vacancies created by the resignation or removal of a board member will be filled by appointment of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners for the balance of the unexpired term. The Board of Commissioners can appoint 1 representative from each city wholly or partially within the county as ex officio members of the EDA board. The ex officio members can serve an indefinite term. They can withdraw at any time. They can participate in discussion, but they do not have authority to make motions or vote. And they do not count when determining the existence of a quorum. Removal of members. Board members can automatically be dismissed and removed for missing without justifiable cause 3 or more consecutive meetings in a given calendar, or the majority of the EDA meetings in a given calendar year. The EDA board member may be removed by the Sherburne County Board for inefficiency, neglect, or duty, or misconduct. And the board, I'm just going to summarize this, the board has to conduct a public hearing and allow 10 days prior to the hearing a notice. And then the board member that could be being terminated has to have the opportunity to present witness and evidence at the public hearing. And then if the board member is removed, a record of that proceeding along with charges and written findings will be filed with the county administrator.
And that's never happened.
It's never happened, but it is in the enabling resolution, so it's in here. And that's right. Any board member can be removed by the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners at any time. Conflict of interest. Except as authorized by the Minnesota statutes, the EDA board member, officer, employee of the EDA shall not possess or acquire any financial interest, direct or indirect, in any project, property, included or planned to be included in any project, nor shall the person have a financial interest, direct or indirect, in any contract or proposed contract for material or services to be furnished or used in connection with the project. Any board member who has or may have an actual or perceived interest is required to immediately disclose that to the full EDA board. If you fail to disclose any of the conflicts of interest, that can be shall constitute as misconduct. And any board member with a conflict of interest in any contract or service is required to abstain from voting on any motion connected with that contract or project.
So Jess, they view that as a managed conflict of interest as long as you declare it and then you stay neutral and away from any voting process.
Yep. Financial reporting. The EDA will submit a monthly financial report to the county board. The financial reports and statements of the EDA will be prepared, audited, filed, and published in the manner required for all financial statements for all of the county departments. The EDA will submit an annual financial statement to the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners, and the financial reports and statements of the EDA are subject to audit by the Sherburne County or Minnesota State Auditor. Staffing. The authority may use the county's purchasing resources in connection with construction work, purchasing equipment, supplies, and materials. The county can furnish offices, meeting rooms, supplies, anything of that nature to assist the authority. And the authority can receive staff support from the Office of the County Administrator, as well as the Office of the Sherburne County Auditor and Treasurer. And the authority may use the services of the Sherburne County Attorney's Office if necessary. Modification and amendment. The enabling resolution can be modified by the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners from time to time, and it has been, which I'll talk about here in a second, as the commissioners deem appropriate or necessary. As part of its annual report, the EDA board itself can report to the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners whether any changes or modifications are requested to the authority's bylaws or the enabling resolution. This is kind of in the weeds a little bit. This just says that it's the intention of the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners that nothing in this resolution should be construed to impair the obligations of the county under any contracts or to affect in any detrimental manner the rights and privileges of a holder of any bond or obligation issued by Sherburne County. Implementation. So the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners may from time to time adopt ordinances and resolutions that are required and permitted by law to give full effect to the resolution. The county commissioners and staff are authorized and directed to take action to execute the delivery of documents necessary to give full effect to this resolution. Any questions on that piece?
I did want to ask and clarify on the EDA shall not levy, but the county board, if it would so choose, could do a levy that would support EDA.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. It's just at the time when that was established, it was that board's decision to not have levy authority, so everything's levied through the county board as part of
And
their
I'm not
general
saying
levy.
that's gonna change, I just wanted that clarification.
Good point.
But do some EDAs have levy authority?
So the cities each have their own,
Cities have that?
yeah,
Okay.
and a lot of counties do too. It's just, it was a decision at the time not to do that.
Well, I know the city of Big Lake doesn't allow their EDA to levy without the authority of the council.
Right, but it does have its own levy that's
Yes.
separate from the general
Yeah.
levy, yeah.
Upon approval of, yeah. And then my other question is in regards to the ex officio members, and I'm assuming that would be, and I think that's great, and I know they don't have a vote, but this is just a matter of, it would be nice to see them sitting at the table so they can feel more comfortable in participating in the conversation, as versus feeling like you're shouting out from the back of the room. That's just an observation of,
We can make that change right now.
okay.
Come on up.
Get them out of the Peter Gallery.
Well, I think it's important to have their input as well, so.
So Dan, how, has this ever been reviewed,
It has,
modified,
it's
or
been updated
changed?
3 different times, and actually at our annual meeting in January, we'll talk about any changes
Yeah.
you suggest. So we wanted to give a background of what it looks like now, and if there is anything you want to update, like Leanne mentioned, levy authority would be a discussion we can
And
have.
seating arrangements.
And seating arrangements.
And seating arrangements.
Yeah, the last time that the enabling resolution was amended was March 24th of 2020.
I also think with our changes on the county board, that this would be good to come
Yep,
as a workshop.
absolutely, and it will be in January.
There's gonna be like 18 workshops in January. So
But this is the most important.
pick a number. There might be a new chair in town.
Hey, Dan, we should also add language about alternates, just to clarify it in the bylaws.
Good point.
Just because we've had, quorum challenges and we want to make sure that we can meet and function.
So what's the most efficient way for you guys? So this is gonna be reviewed in January. Would you like feedback from the board?
Absolutely.
Emailed to you?
Jessica's
during
gonna have a little homework for you guys after today's meeting. Put you guys to work.
All right, are we ready to move on to the bylaws?
Can we?
All right. So the Sherburne County EDA was created by the resolution, so that date in April, 2006 was when the Board of Commissioners, actually it was September 12th, 2006, when the Board of Commissioners adopted and accepted the recommendation of the report of the task force to create the EDA. And then on August 5th, 2008 was when the enabling resolution was done, the bylaws were done, everything was approved, and the EDA hit the ground. So that was August 5th, 2008. All right, the purpose of the authority is to serve as an economic development authority pursuant to statute, and its affairs will include encouraging and promoting commercial and industrial growth and development in Sherburne County.
That'll be part of our discussion later too, is do we want to update that statement? Is that enough? Do we want to have a broader use?
Meetings, all meetings of the authority are open to the public and are governed by the Minnesota Open Meeting Law. A meeting is defined as a gathering of any of the majority or more of the board members during which authority business is being discussed. A quorum exists when the majority of board members meeting in office are at any time present during the meeting, and there must be a quorum to conduct any business, including voting. If a quorum is not present, then the meeting must be adjourned until the next regular scheduled meeting, and all meetings shall be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order.
And just so you know, all meetings are live streamed and recorded and available on our website.
Annual meeting. The annual meeting takes place on the last Thursday in January at 8:30 a.m. at the Sherburne County Government Center. The meeting is required to be published in an official newspaper of the authority not less than 10 days in advance of the meeting, and it must be delivered to the board members of the authority and each commissioner on the Sherburne County Board. And it is the responsibility of the board chair to give this notice, although it can and probably has been delegated, so. Suggested order of business, I'm not gonna go through this, but it does lie out right in the bylaws, the suggested order of business for annual meetings, which I did look back on the minutes and you guys stick pretty close to this. Regular meetings, Sherburne County's regular meetings take place on the third Thursday of the month at 8:30. No separate notice is needed for these meetings because at the annual meeting, the EDA does schedule all of the regularly scheduled EDA meetings through the entire year, and that's published, so that is the notice for the entire year.
And that's not by statute, so we could have those meetings anytime, so that will be a discussion we'll have in January. Does 8:30 on Thursdays work, or is there a better time?
Suggested order of business at regular meetings. Special meetings. Special meetings of the authority can be called by the board chair at any time in his or her discretion or upon written request of any board member. The notice of the special meeting must be given to each board member and each commissioner of the county board and will be posted at the authority's principal office. Board members may participate in any regular or special meeting by interactive television with board approval. So that's like Laura's on right now. Officers of the board. So the EDA is required to have certain officers on the board. The board chair is elected by primary vote of the EDA board members. They preside at all meetings and have general charge and control over the EDA board. And the board chair can sign and countersign certificates, contracts, and other instruments of the authority as authorized by the authority. They must have a vice chair that is also elected by the members. The vice chair will preside at all meetings in the absence of the board chair and perform with all the powers assigned at the meetings of the board president if the board president is unavailable. There's a treasurer, also selected by majority vote. The treasurer is supposed to receive and is responsible for all authority monies and acts of the assistant treasurer. The treasurer shall disperse authority money by check only and keep on account, excuse me, of the source of all receipts and the nature, purpose, and authority of all disbursements. The treasurer will prepare and file all required financial reports and provide a bond as required by law. And there's also an assistant treasurer, which will have the powers and duties of the treasurer if they are unavailable.
And honestly, the county pretty much takes care of this. The treasurer is required, but they really haven't done much since the EDA's been established. The county staff takes care of that.
The secretary is responsible for taking and preparing minutes of the authority, maintaining any appropriate files as deemed necessary by the board, including minutes, publications of meeting notices. And then the secretary shall also perform such duties and functions as designated by the board chair. Absentee and vacancies. The EDA board from time to time may delegate the powers or duties of an officer that is absent or unable to act to any other officer or board member whom it may select. Vacancies in office arising from any cause will be filled by the authority in the manner prescribed within the enabling resolution. Staff and consultants. The authority can appoint an executive director and other staff as it deems necessary to carry out the business of the authority and may determine their duties, qualifications, and compensation. The executive director will have the duties and responsibilities as assigned by the EDA board and approved by the Sherburne County Commissioners. And the authority may delegate to its staff, employees, and agents such powers or duties as it may deem proper. Consultants. The authority may contract for the services of consultants as needed to perform its duties and exercise its powers. The fees of all contracted agents or consultants of the authority will be fixed by the EDA board, and they, again, may use the services of the county attorney as its chief legal advisor. Budgetary proceedings. The fiscal year of the authority is the same as the county's. The budget will be prepared by the treasurer in accordance with the state statute. The treasurer will present the budget to the board members of the authority for consideration each year. The budget will include estimates, estimated revenue, sources of revenue, estimates of the amount of money needed from the county, the cost of projects for the ensuing year, estimated costs for staff, the purpose for which the money on hand was to be applied, and as well as the general administrative and overhead costs estimated for the ensuing year.
And once again, this is something staff is taking care of. Back in 2019, we did present the budget to the EDA. They gave some recommendations, and we've kept it flat since that time, so that's why it hasn't been brought to you. But going forward, this will be brought to the EDA on an annual basis, so there's more input from the group.
Yeah. After consideration of the budget, the board members will approve it, and then the executive director will submit the budget to the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. Financial statements. So the financial statements of the authority will be prepared, presented, approved, and filed in accordance with all relevant statutes. By June 1st each year, the treasurer will file a detailed financial statement with the secretary of the authority covering financial operations of the authority during the 12-month period prior ending December 31st of the previous calendar year. And the authority may use the Sherburne County Auditor Treasurer's Office for auditing all financial statements and providing staff assistance to the treasurer. So this is not part of the bylaws. I stuck this slide in here because I thought the budgeting section may generate some discussion. For 2023, the EDA has $48,000 to spend on professional and technical services, and it can be delegated as the authority sees fit. I would recommend come January that we host a goal-setting meeting so that you guys can have a real discussion on things that you may want to accomplish or use these dollars for. And then I would also suggest that become a regular part of your budgeting process. So, you know, if you wanted to be more involved in that budgeting process, that would be a good way to do it. Get the discussion out on the table, and you know, you guys come from all across the county. Bring your needs and expertises from across the county to the table, and get some good budget requests in so you guys can get some things done that you want to do.
Just as an example, we had a housing study a couple years ago. This is the funding that paid for that. We do the videos on the website and updated the website with a consultant. This is the money that helped with that. Site selector visits with the cities, we partnered with them on costs that was using this fund. So those are just some ideas of how that funding has been used in the past. It doesn't get spent on most years, so it gets rolled over into our revolving loan fund. So that's where that revolving loan fund is funded through funds that have not been utilized each year. But we'd certainly like to use it if there's projects, so that's where we'd like some input from the group as we go forward on what those dollars could be utilized for.
Do we have a designated amount that we contribute to the revolving loan fund?
No,
besides
it's
this
whatever doesn't
rollover?
get spent in a year is eligible to be used in any economic development project, but we've been funneling it to the revolving loan fund.
Contracts and procurement. Construction work and work of demolition and clearing contracts for services, repairs, maintenance, and replacements shall be in accordance with the statute and procurement policies, if any, established by resolution of the authority. Unless otherwise directed by the authority or required by state or federal agencies furnishing funds to the authority, all contracts shall be executed on behalf of the authority by any two officers of the authority, including the board chair. Disbursements. Federal funds. All funds received from the government of the United States or any of its agencies will be dispersed and accounted for in accordance with regulation requirements made by the federal agencies furnishing the funds to the EDA. The authority may use the designated county financial institution for all financial deposits. All monies of the authority will be deposited in the name of the authority in an official county depository in accordance with Minnesota statute. Monies will be dispersed by check signed by persons designated by the authority, and the authority may not maintain at any time more than $100 in petty cash. All checks drawn on bank accounts of the authority must indicate the fund in the case of a project, the project to be charged. And all checks must be signed by the treasurer and one officer named by the authority by resolution. Records and insurance. The books and records of the authority will be kept in the principal office of the authority. The authority, as a separate legal entity, will purchase and maintain at times a liability insurance policy in the amount sufficient under all reasonable standards to adequately insure and protect the authority from claims and liabilities arising from the execution of its appointed duties and responsibilities. The policy will name the authority as the primary insured of the county of Sherburne and its officers, agents, and employees as additional insureds. Proof of liability insurance must be presented to the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners as part of the authority's annual reports.
And that's where we found the insurance clause.
We got that.
Yeah, we're covered there.
That's when I walked across the hall into Dan's office and said, "Do we have an insurance policy?" Okay. Bylaw amendments. These bylaws can be amended at any meeting of the authority, provided that all amendments do not become active until they are approved by the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners. Amendments of the bylaws must be in accordance with the procedural and voting requirements established by the bylaws or by resolution of the authority. Advisory committees. The authority can create and maintain in its discretion volunteer advisory committees which will act in an advisory capacity. All members of an advisory committee must be appointed by the authority. Membership of any advisory committee does not need to be comprised exclusively of members of the EDA. And the responsibilities of the advisory committee would be to advise and assist the authority and to work with the board chair of the authority and economic development coordinator of the county on assignments. That's it. Any questions?
Was this reviewed in the 2000 or 2020 also, at the same time as the,
Yes.
It's technically reviewed at every annual meeting,
I should say,
but yeah,
amended?
as part of the strategic planning back in 2018, it was looked at. So do you want to talk next steps now? Vision?
Yeah, I can. So first, is there any questions or discussions that's generated from that review? All right. Let me find my other little paper here.
So I'll just kick this off a little bit, Jessica. In the past, things that have been brought to this group have been pretty much staff-led for you to react to. We'd like to reverse that, where you bring staff projects you'd like to see us work on, or speakers you'd like to know more information about. So this goal setting is to give staff direction moving forward. We really want you to be the recommending body to us on what we work on, as opposed to vice versa. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jessica to talk about vision and next steps.
Yeah, so I would envision this group moving forward in 2023
like Dan said, you know, you guys bringing your ideas to the table and the county staff being the heavy lifters, if you will. Bring your ideas, areas of concern, things you want to look into. Let's set some goals. If there's budgetary needs tied to that, let's bring it to the county commissioners. So you guys can actually get some things done that you feel are meaningful moving forward. And let us do the heavy work, researching and then bringing back recommendations so you guys can make informed, good decisions. With that, I would like to do kind of an exercise, which we're not going to do today, but I'll send it out in an email. And that would just be to get your ideas on a mission and vision statement for the EDA. Because I think once you have a clear mission and vision statement, that's kind of the lens that you can look through in all of your goal-setting activities moving forward. So I will be sending out a worksheet to do that you guys can kind of do and bring back to the EDA meeting in December, if that sounds like a good direction to go.
I just have a question. This is a review of what our existing mission statement is and to look and see if there's anything that would enhance it, or is there a direction we want to change from what the current mission statement says? Is that my understanding what you're asking?
So when I was looking at the strategic plan, there is a paragraph in the strategic plan, and there is a purpose statement, I believe they call it. But the way it's written is it's written as a purpose statement for Sherburne County. And I would suggest, you know, that the EDA really hones in on their own little, which is common practice. I've done a lot of research looking at several different EDAs, different counties and cities EDAs, and most of them have their own very targeted vision and mission statement for what they're hoping to accomplish.
So currently there isn't one.
Not directly for the
Directly
EDA.
for us, so this is a new,
Other than what's in the enabling
let's
resolution
people
that says
have
expand
our own.
commercial and industrial, that's it.
Perfect.
Which is kind of broad.
Yeah.
So we'd like some information from you for the December meeting. We'll summarize those goals and then bring them to the commissioners in January to make sure we're on the same page. And then we'd have our annual meeting at the end of January for this group to really start the strategic planning process. So we want to make sure the EDA is in aligned with what the Sherburne County Commissioners' goals are as well.
And I think would be helpful for that strategic planning process is to get a better understanding of what kind of businesses can we really help grow or attract that a township could support. As versus, because a lot of times, depending on what that business is, does it need city services? Or, so I'd like to get a better understanding of what it is we're trying to help develop in a township based on well and septic.
So that'd be a goal to respond to us with, and we can react to that. Ken, I know you've been very involved in this process. Do you want to add anything?
Great job. You guys did all the work. So I don't know exactly how involved I've been, but just for clarification, so we have our December meeting to get our work done. Flat out, we need to leave the room with the mission statement or whatever in place, so you can move it to the commissioners to come back to us.
Right. Yeah, in January.
Is that going to be doable in the time frame that we normally carve out, or do we need to have a different start time so everybody can really engage and not be maybe on gotta leave the room at 9:30?
Well, we're just looking for the responses. We'll summarize those responses after the December meeting. It's just a 30-day window for you all and then we'll summarize those, bring them to the board, and then we can have a more detailed discussion at the EDA level in January. And then we'll have a more detailed conversation at another day with the county commissioners of where those goals led to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd also like to see some what is a barrier for some of our members to make the meetings. I mean, like, I'm looking at, you know, technically who should be here, and I get things that come up. But is there something we need to be doing differently? Because we want everybody to be here to.
Well, your questionnaire is gonna be full, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just, like I said, you know,
On that note, Sheldon Poole has not been able to come to a lot of meetings, so he will be resigning, and Todd
Okay.
Maloney will be taking his place. He'll actually be on your next board agenda at the commissioner
Okay.
level to approve.
Which will be great, because he's township supervisor
And he
will
owns a
bring that
business, so-
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
really good. Yep, and in my experience, not that I want to charge the chair with everything and the staff, but I think to follow up with those members that aren't, making the meetings, it's not a fun job. I'm doing it right now for a couple other boards I'm on that I chair, and making calls and asking their intent, so. Just,
So one of our preliminary goals that we talked about, being more active in townships, we'd like to go visit each township and maybe have an EDA member that covers that district. For example, Andy, if we go to Becker Township, we'd ask you to come with us. And so that's one of our things we will be working on, if that's something the commissioners want.
Yeah, I think township participation, or getting input from all municipalities, city and township is a really big part of this. And to start those conversations or increase the conversations, because anything that we do in somebody else's backyard, So as a county EDA, if we're gonna be involved in a project, if we're going to, however it's going to be in the city of Princeton or the city of Big Lake or our township. And so, trying to form our vision here to impose down there is a little bit backwards. In my opinion, we need input from them on how we can best facilitate for them, because really, I think that's what we're here for, is to facilitate for all the municipalities. And sometimes economic development doesn't resonate with some of the outskirt townships, until you open up that discussion. And I've had some with some town board members. And yeah, initially you get the blank stare, like, we're in Orac, what are you even talking about? But 20 minutes later, there's a lot of economic development stuff that comes up. So I think just opening that communication is going to be huge as far as us getting a workable plan together of why we're here and how we can best assist.
I think another thing that's challenging for a lot of townships is they just aren't staffed. And so for them to be able to really hone in and participate in something of this nature is very challenging on their end. When you do go to a lot of the township meetings and you're discussing things even that the planning commission handles, it's just a lot of, well, Sherburne County does that for us. So very little interaction happens.
Yeah, well, now they gotta think.
Yes, and that would be, like I said, and even maybe not only just this body, but I think it's a good thought process for the cities to engage that conversation with townships as well. And I come from the city of Big Lake that has a really good relationship with the city, or the township. And I think that's important for all the cities to encourage, so.
not super common.
No,
So
no, I
it's
know.
challenging, cities and township relationships, but we are trying to definitely facilitate that. It's really important. We recognize, I really like what you're saying, that it's important for us to listen to our townships, and, the whole example of them not having the staff, but that's where we can, as a county, fill in and help support in those areas. But I always say we've got to listen to them and partner with them from the get-go, and not come in and say, this is our plan for you.
Right.
Yeah, and I would also like to make sure, like what I said before, get a better understanding of what kind of businesses a township can support in regards to infrastructure needs and stuff. I think that's really important to understand that aspect as well.
And we'd also like the members to bring in speakers in their industry that would be impactful for everyone else. Like, obviously, interest rates are rising. What does that mean? Childcare at YMCA, I could get a speaker in here talking about that. Nonprofits, Greta, that would, mission statements or speakers that would impact our community. We really want you to be more involved in providing input on speakers and who we bring in and what projects we work on.
And I would say too, I think county staff can go to township meetings and town meetings and stand up and introduce ourselves and make ourselves available. But at the end of the day, we're paid county staff. You know, so I think people have a reservation with that. They're not just gonna open up, these are the hopes and dreams for my township right off the bat. And the way the bylaws are written, it's very intentional that members of the EDA are scattered across the county for a reason. And the organic conversations that you guys as business owners and leaders are able to generate as just members of the community can really gather a lot of valuable information to bring back and drive what we do here.
Yeah, there's a lot of infrastructure in townships, when you have businesses that might be growing on a township road that isn't designed to take some of the traffic that a business could generate, that, those are issues as well to look at. Because we do take 1/4 of any business, property tax wise, and 1/3 of any, I'm gonna go residential housing as well, because without workforce and affordable, we're gonna be challenged to grow businesses.
I know we're running short on time.
Yeah, just send Rand extra sheets.
I will say too, one of the plans, just so the commissioners in the room know, Dan is planning on doing the review that he just did on the strategic plan for the commissioners. And we would really like feedback from the commissioners on what your vision is and what your ideas are for the EDA moving forward, so.
And I would like feedback from businesses as well, along with our townships, on where they view it. It's hard, like what Lisa said, for us to come in and say what our vision is without understanding the whole picture of what a business is, dealing with, or what the barriers might be, along with what a township's barriers might be, so.
Yep.
Survey monkeys.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a lot of that information with our BRNE program.
Survey monkeys are one way to go about it, but I found that a bottle of Crown Royal and a couple of commissioners, they get a lot more.
Speaking my language. Do you want the cigar too?
To go along with what Jessica was saying, the feedback is a lot more honest and organic when we're not in an official meeting and you are doing things kind of the old-fashioned way, and that's what I've tried to do with the people I've contacted, and it's been very enlightening, so.
I found those quarterly things that we did very helpful too, because you did bring people out and opened up, normally they're at like Lupulin or like the sunken, yep.
So, just to recap, you're gonna send out some stuff, and we're gonna fill it out, get it back to you, right?
By the December meeting.
December meeting.
And then December we'll focus on a lot of Mark's items, so I wanted to give him a little time to just set that
Yeah,
stage.
we should move on to the comp plan summary, which is something else very near and dear to economic development, so. Well,
I thought it was gonna be your part.
Thanks for inviting me, Dan. It's probably the quietest I've ever been at a meeting where I wanted to talk immensely.
we
You
appreciate
guys
it.
are- And, I just have 5 points. I was jotting notes down, my concept, what I want to try and communicate to the board today. And so as you know, we're in the process of rewriting our comprehensive land use plan for Sherburne County. Zach visited you guys in August. I was out of state at the time. I kind of just gave a quick synopsis of where we're at. But our comprehensive plan is something I view as, it's called the comprehensive land use plan. We're gonna set a map, for new land use districts in Sherburne County, but we are doing that big picture, that big vision work, for Sherburne County. And one of the kind of key themes in my mind with our comprehensive plan is improving the quality of life, throughout, wherever you're at in Sherburne County, giving that opportunity to improve the quality of life for people through good land use practices. That might be starting up a business, that might be moving from that starter home into the next phase. So the vision work is really resonating with me because I have a meeting for 2 hours today really focusing on those concepts. Those concepts aren't my concepts. They're concepts that I've gotten from the community. I spent probably 14 hours in October at town board meetings. I attend the entire meeting. I come there early and I stay after. And I do that in part so I can understand what they have going on, so I can build that relationship. And I've built that relationship over years with our township officials. And they are comfortable having the conversations with me, those kind of meaningful conversations. And it is
Without liquor?
enjoyable.
Without liquor.
Without liquor, I
You're
can
more
do it.
You're more important than me.
I can do it. It probably would be enhanced, I think, with the opportunity of a little bourbon with it, but, one of these days. That's where we gotta get back to those meetings. Those meetings were outstanding. You know, from a perspective of a land use guy, planner, who had been in his little silo, sandbox or whatever for a lot of years in Sherburne County, to get to go out and kind of build those relationships and foster those relationships is really what I hope to accomplish in this comprehensive plan, for the county, our cities and our townships and our businesses. The second thing that I just want to provide is a quick handout. This is just a document that we had put out this summer. You guys probably have it, but it's a takeaway. It just gives you the link to our website, talks about some of our initial analysis work. And it's just a document I try to push out to bring people to our website. And the next thing is a big thank you to the EDA board for the housing study. The housing study has been one of the things that has really driven my comprehensive plan. One of the key topics in discussion in my comprehensive plan is coming out of that housing study. So the investment in that was critical. It highlights an issue that we have countywide. Some shortages of the life cycle housing. We've been really talking a lot about life cycle housing and how life cycle housing can improve and maintain the quality of life in a region. So if you have an opportunity to, your kids get to the point where they're graduating school and they want to stay in the community, they may want to stay, part of, the Elk River community, they'd like their kids to go through the schools, that they have good opportunities for housing in those areas. And the housing study highlighted where we had shortcomings. And it also highlighted where we had shortcomings on the opposite end, kind of that entry-level house, and then the, I'd call it maybe active living or higher quality, housing options for people who are maybe looking to downgrade a little bit, the higher quality apartments, townhomes, things like that. And then also the senior housing. So the housing study is huge, and it's something I'm using constantly. So thanks for doing that. The next item, in September and October, we did a lot of listening. So I prepared presentations. I went out and we prepared a survey, and I think this group got that survey and participation. It was kind of a visioning survey. I had that little scale, do you value this statement or that statement? And we pushed that out. I pushed it out over to, I think, 2,200 people, direct mail, direct email. Hey, please fill out this survey. And I got so-so responses. I got 500 responses, but the people I was sending it to were our business owners, were our government officials, were our policymakers. So I got 400 responses on that. And, those responses are helping to shape our overall vision. And so come December, I guess one more thing about September and October, it really was just listening. It was talking to each town board. We did make it out to our cities also and had conversations with them, hit the broader public, to try and understand what direction they want the county to go. And we got some pretty good guidance, and now it's our job to kind of start analyzing that. And the township comment, that's the discussion that was happening here about the townships, the thing that really resonated with me when I was out of the townships, was how different each community is and what their needs and pressures are. So when you talk about development, the pressures and needs of Haven Township are far different than the pressure and needs in San Diego Township. So getting to understand each part of the county and what their needs and issues are critical. So then in December, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to do kind of a work session. I'm going to highlight the findings that we've gotten, the analysis of the survey, and then 3, really identify what key themes and topics our comprehensive plan should be focusing on in relation to economic development. Over the last month, I focused on housing, natural resources, and agriculture, and I need to now take some time and get feedback on economic development. So that's where I'm at with our comprehensive plan. I look forward to having a conversation in December and working with Dan and Jessica to come up with a way to incorporate it into your agenda so it adds to the conversation, doesn't kind of detract from where you guys are currently going.
So Mark, I had a question. I know we talk a lot about when we pull our comprehensive plan together, and a lot of times from planning and zoning, they'd like to see more of a one-size-fits-all thought process where they're not trying to do various things like what you said. Each area has different needs, and we are a very diverse county because of more urbanization on one end of it, more rural on the other. And so is there a way to incorporate the fact, like you just said, very different needs in different areas, and have the planning and zoning department be open to that?
So like, you guys think those word bubbles, like what words show up the most? Flexibility is one of the things, I think if I had to word bubble it, it's flexibility is showing up with the highest demand. Unfortunately, our current plan does provide a fair amount of flexibility, but a lot of our stuff is just way outdated and it needs to get up to modern speeds. That's one of the things that we're gonna be working on. But I think openness and flexibility and opportunities for people to develop property is a big component of our.
With an understanding, how do we understand, where areas of, there is a community standard base that some people value, very important. How do we recognize that by still allowing
There was unintended
growth?
consequences that was told by Kevin Hiller. He's like, all right, these things are all great, Mark, but here, are you thinking about the other things? And Clear Lake Township, someone else, I can't remember, it was one of the gunners, made a similar comment, like, okay, these ideas are great, Mark, they're all pie in the sky, but there are impacts of these things that you're proposing. So keep that in mind. I need that pessimistic person with the half glass full of coffee.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
Keep in mind.
understanding too, when someone wants to build a larger building, which we hear a lot of, why can't I put this other building on my land? And there's the concern of, well, because in the past, they've turned into businesses. How do we embrace that idea, that if it does turn into a business?
And some of those businesses, most of those businesses are kind of the cornerstones of our communities. You look at our township officials who serve on our boards, who serve on our fire, they're
Who own
critical. And
businesses.
we need
Who
to
own
support,
businesses.
and we need to make sure that they got their opportunities. So I'm very conscious of that stuff and the independence streak of our county.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, I think economic development's a really big part of comprehensive plans, or it should be. I don't think it's usually incorporated to the level, because they are done by planning departments, which are typically the nemesis of economic development departments. But the more input we could have as an EDA on this and bringing it into townships, I think would be great. So I appreciate the opportunity to get our input.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so you'll be back in December also? Fantastic.
Yep.
All right, brings us down to adjourn unless there's anything else.
Can I just say two more things very
Absolutely.
quickly? On the Sherburne County website and Benton, Stearns, and Wright County websites, the Region 7W SEDS report, the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, is in its 30-day public comment period from November 1st to the 30th. So spread the word. We would love to hear anybody's public comments or anybody's comments on that. And then Dan talked about the economic development section of the website being updated. There are quite a few things on there, but one thing that I think is the most fun is we partnered with I don't even know if I'm going to say this right, the GIS guys team. And so we have GIS data on our website. So like demographics for population and workforce, it's kind of interactive and fun now, but so I don't know, I was excited about that. That's all.
On the 30-day comment period for SEDS, can we get that out on our county Facebook page as well, so then we can
It has
share
been
it?
right now.
It is?
And
Okay,
we put it
sorry.
on the website.
Have you shared? I'll have to get busy on
I
that.
haven't, but I think I have actually. And one other thing, just on a personal note, many of you know Roger Nelson, Township Supervisor. We just got notice that he passed away last night. So please keep
He's
Marlene.
very active in a number of.
Very active in Township
Planning.
and planning and zoning and Board of Adjustment. I know, sorry, Mark. Yeah, loved by many of us, so keep Marlene and their kids. They had a blended family, each had 2 kids that they brought to the marriage, and
And you've very seldom seen one without the other, so
I know.
it's gonna be tough.
so sad. Sorry
Thank you
for that note.
information. All right, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Second?
We just want to stay.
I was gonna say that. It usually doesn't take that long.
I'm going from here to solid waste. I'd
Oh.
rather stay here.
All right, all in favor?
This is way better.
Opposed?